It's the most expensive milk you're likely to see on the shelf, and more of it is starting to appear. Camel milk is gaining momentum in Australia. Despite ongoing debate about its health benefits, the number and size of camel dairies is on the rise. But as Kerry State reports, turning the feral desert dwellers into domestic cash cows is harder than many farmers anticipated.
All right, up, up, up.
Easy.
Come on, mamas.
Easy. Easy. Up, up.
From the wilds of Central Australia to a camel dairy 180 kilometres north of Melbourne.
Coming up your side, Steve.
You'll come back round. What are you doing, woman?
This latest load of arrivals has a big adjustment to make.
Come on. One in every pack.
Gentle, gentle, mama.
They get left off this truck and go, where am I? Where are my friends? Where's the smells, the places I know? So they're scared. They don't know what to expect.
You look good. You're watching.
But after just a few days at Camel's Rochester facility, the managers are impressed with their progress.
They're very intelligent, very affectionate. You've got to give them a bit of respect. They've got long legs and they know how to use them, but you treat them with respect, they'll give it to you back.
Good mamas. And they're going up the race already. That's how great they are, slowly.
Once the animals are accustomed to fences and yards, the training moves on to more confined spaces, as handlers work towards touching the camels and earning their trust.
Good mama.
It's a vital part of turning this dairy into a productive and profitable operation.
It's okay. We're going back through. Slowly.
If she doesn't like you, if you've mistreated her or yelled at her or even swore at her, she'll go, no, I don't want to give you milk. So you've got to gain that trust. You've got to become friends with her.
It's okay, mama.
Camel has set up an $8 million pilot farm funded by investors from the United Arab Emirates. There are currently around 200 animals at this property, including 40 milkers.
All the way. Walk up. Come on, mama.
But the company has an ambitious goal: to build a network of farmers across Victoria with a combined herd of 10,000 milking camels.
There she goes. 81's let down. 16 hasn't yet. You're doing so good.
How long does it take, I guess, to get to that sort of milking stage?
We had one camel where we could have her in a race and touching and everything within a week. Like, she was fine to be able to even touch the udder and start stimulating the udder within a week, where another camel, we've been working on her for about three months now. So we're still trying to get her in, to get her to have the relationship with us and to let her know that we're not so scary.
Half an hour down the road near Kyabram is another farm where patience leads to productivity. Chris Williams first came across camels while working on a beef property in the outback, where they were seen more as pests. Now, after 3 years of working more closely with them, he and his wife Megan have a new appreciation.
It was very frustrating to begin with, yeah, but yeah, one day it just happens and
It clicks.
It clicks. And then you understand the animal, and then from then on it is really rewarding. You can just look in a camel's eye and you can tell what it's thinking, and you can tell how trusting it is, or
what it's going to allow you to do.
Or how far it's going to allow you to go before it allows you to trust it. Like they train you as much as you train them.
Camel milk has been a staple among nomadic tribes for thousands of years, but it is a young commercial industry. And for these former dairy cattle farmers, the novelty was part of the attraction.
Who thinks it's going to get some milk, eh? You think you're going to get some milk?
We wanted something niche, and we researched many different things: milking goats, buffalo, even miniature Herefords at one stage. And then we heard you can milk camels.
It's been an interesting journey so far, often 3 steps forward and 2 back. Something they've learned very quickly is one size does not fit all, with plenty of tweaks needed to this former cattle dairy.
I spent the first 12 months with a welder strapped to my back and angle grind in my pocket.
It's not just these larger cows they need to accommodate for, but their offspring too. While the role of the young camels varies from dairy to dairy, here the babies stay with their mums to help stimulate milk production through the whole lactation period, which can last up to 2 years.
You start off with a cute little cuddly calves that are about 40 kilos, and then they grow up at 18 months old, they're about 300 or 400 kilos. So you're feeding 2 animals, you're managing 2 animals. You have to get that calf and that camel to work together to fit in with what we want so that we can get the milk.
Once camels let down their milk, the next challenge is to get enough out of them. Most Australian dairies average between 5 and 6 litres an animal a day, whereas dairy cattle produce 3 to 4 times that amount.
Hello, gorgeous boy. Hello, gorgeous boy. How are you? Thank you, good boy.
This is Lauren Brisbane's dairy in the Sunshine Coast hinterland. She's worked with camels for 12 years and decided to move into milking them in 2014.
Oh, it's been a really big learning curve. So, and I would say it's the agony and the ecstasy. So, it is just when you think you're trucking along really well, you'll get a curveball.
Some of those curveballs come down to the location. While it may be closer to her market, the relatively lush backdrop is a world away from the arid landscape the camels have come from.
It's not the natural habitat at all. The lower yield in really wet conditions always poses a problem for us. We've learned to manage it very well, but there are advantages for us on a milk basis to do it in these conditions as well. So we find that we've got quite a rich, creamy milk, which we find that fits better into the marketplace. Hello, gorgeous boy. How are you?
Indeed, one of the most important things to manage is what to feed an animal that is used to harsh conditions and irregular meals. Compared to other livestock industries, information on camel nutrition is a lot harder to find. So farmers have to do more of their own legwork to come up with a diet that is good for the animal and their bottom line.
Look, we certainly work with lucerne. It's a great protein. What we don't do, we don't feed grain, so you've got to work with a lot of your other feeds and your fodders, and they have a lot of highbrows, and which is really important for their gut health. Is that nice? Is that nice?
Someone who has spent 30 years researching animal nutrition and gut microbiology, including studies on camels, is Dr. Rafat Al-Jassim.
The nutrition of camels are different from cattle, and camels should never be treated like cows. The physiology, the anatomy, and the digestion processes in the camels are slightly, or in certain area, are completely different.
What is similar, according to many producers, is the flavour of the milk.
People's first perception is, camel's milk, because it's so foreign to them. And then by the time they have their little taste, they go, oh, it tastes just like cow's milk, slightly salter aftertaste.
First, you have to convince consumers it's actually worth tasting.
We've been selling milk now for about 2.5 years, and certainly in the first few months it was, you don't make any money, and it's like any new business. It takes a little while for you to sort of start to turn over those dollars and see a return.
Lauren Brisbane exports a little of her fresh pasteurised milk to Singapore and New Zealand, but at this stage mainly relies on domestic retailers like this store near her farm.
Sales are going really well. I think we got through about 18 this week, so it's going up and up, yeah.
While sales are increasing, the price tag, which tops $20 a litre in some states, is also a deterrent for many shoppers, especially when there are so many alternative milks to pick from. But farmers say what looks excessive on the shelf barely covers the cost of production.
we couldn't have budgeted for how much it was going to cost to just get a litre of milk from a camel. You know, having been no major research or industry, you know, we had to work it out ourselves and then go, well, this is actually what it costs. This is, you know, we've got to make it affordable for our consumers. And in the last 2 years, we've certainly got it down over $10 in 2 years. And as, you know, farm efficiencies improve, well, that will come down even further.
It's not far out of kilter with camel milk retail prices around the world. In Dubai, for instance, where labour is low cost, retail prices are around about $15 Australian per litre. And in the US, where demand is strong and supply is short, retail prices are about $30 a litre.
Michael Clark is an agricultural economist who was recently commissioned by the Rural Industries Research and Development Corporation to write a report on the camel milk market.
In Australia, there is there's strong support from the Australian Somali community and certain people of Middle Eastern background here in Australia. But the big growth we're seeing is in people who are consuming camel's milk for health-based reasons.
And that's something that sparks a lot of debate. Traditional consumers, including Bedouins, have long believed in the healing properties of camel milk. More recently, there have been claims that it helps with a range of health problems and disorders, from allergies and gut issues to cancer, diabetes and autism. Producers say there is strong anecdotal evidence the milk has therapeutic merit.
Seriously, you hear them every day. Like, we can go into town and I've got friends that it's helping their kids. You hear kids with eczema and that sort of things, it's helping them as well. It's amazing.
You listen to people on the phone whose child's been screaming for 4 years and then they've stopped because they've just spent a weekend consuming our milk. Then there's some value in that.
Autism Awareness Australia does not see any value in the milk.
There is absolutely no scientific evidence that proves camel milk is effective in the treatment of autism. To suggest to families that it is not only untrue but irresponsible.
98, just letting down. 98.
Some research has found camel milk has relatively high levels of vitamin C, insulin, immunoglobulins and some minerals, and is lower in lactose and cholesterol than regular cow's milk. But Dr. Rafat Al-Jassim says that doesn't mean it has medicinal value when people drink it.
My biggest concern is that you're dealing with diseases that are serious. You're talking about cancer, you're talking about autism, you're talking about diabetes, and there are many people who are desperate, many people who are vulnerable, and they are prepared to try anything.
I would never say to anybody, oh, stop what you're doing and just drink camel milk. That's just ridiculous, you know. But do I think it's a great supportive, you know, dairy source with people who have gut or health issues? That the evidence has shown that to us.
When we go into camels, we don't have much data for camels.
One thing everyone at this camel milk conference agrees on is that more up-to-date scientific research is needed on the health benefits.
I've been trying for some time and it's very difficult. No funding available for camels. And it's very difficult to establish a viable, sustainable camel industry without doing research.
One other thing.
The development of a sustainable industry was bolstered, though, by the fact this recent forum in Adelaide even went ahead. It brought most of the country's 10 camel milk producers together, along with local and international experts in husbandry, breeding, nutrition and intensive farming.
How much fat, how much lactose, how much protein.
In an industry that has not been particularly united, it was a significant step and a chance to hear about the opportunities as well as the challenges.
Very few processing into other products to diversify, like yogurt, like ice cream, and like cheese. It's a very, very few transformation for the moment. And I think it is one possibility of the development of the camel industry in the world is to have more diversified product for the people.
Many of Australia's producers have already started to do just that, including this farm at Harrisville, southwest of Brisbane. It's launched a camel milk Persian feta and is also selling ice cream, as the operators try to get more people to see camels in a new light.
In a land like Australia, we've got this animal that can survive, you know, through pretty well anything, the worst things that our Mother Nature can throw at it, and, you know, we're shooting it. So, and yet it produces meat, it produces milk, it, you know, produces fat products for other stuff, hide, you know, leather. So, I mean, it's an amazing animal.
Former beef producer and grain grower Paul Martin and his business partner Jeff Flood have set up the Australian Wild Camel Corporation. The farm has a milking herd of around 65 animals, making it the biggest dairy in the country. And this is just the start-up phase, with plans to build a much larger facility over the next few years that will accommodate 1,000 milkers. Local investors have so far put in around half of the $15 million Paul Martin says it will cost to reach their commercial goal.
Our main issue is to take it from that cottage industry and get it, we've got to jump that hurdle and get it into a commercial where we can sell the product overseas on volume.
And these are the products he particularly wants that extra volume for. Instead of flooding the market with fresh milk, the entrepreneur says right now he's focused on turning it into skin care.
Overseas, Asia is a massive market for skin and anti-aging products, and if we want to actually, you know, sell container loads to overseas consumers, you know, we've got to have, you know, the first thing they ask is, can you supply? And you know, the worst thing we could do is deliver one load and then not, you know, be able to deliver a second.
Another way producers are hoping to crack the export market is by turning their camel milk into powder. Lauren Brisbane has started using this freeze-dry company at Yandina to turn her heavier wet product into this lighter version. And she's not the only one heading down this freight-friendly path.
It's got a longer life expectancy. You don't have to have 8 days on a shelf. You can send it all over the world without the same regulations as a fresh dairy product. So our end goal will be the milk powder.
An even longer-term goal could be to export Australia's camel genetics. The feral population that is the foundation of the local industry may be a mixed bag when it comes to milk potential, but it has one thing going for it that many domesticated herds don't. It's relatively disease-free.
We know that we have a healthy, a clean herd, and the genetics of this herd can be very important to upgrade and to improve the genetics of herds in the Middle East and in Africa.
Some of our male camels will mate certain females, and some of them they don't like, even if they are at the right stage of the cycle.
Improving genetics is Lulu Skidmore's world. She runs the Camel Reproduction Centre in Dubai and has been working with the biggest camel dairy in the world, Camelicious, on an embryo transfer project.
I think that's where the camel industry can catch up, because once you've selected your good donors, you can then use embryo transfer, and instead of producing one calf a year or in 13 months, you can produce 10 or 12 calves.
But before there can be any widespread sharing of good genetics, there are a few humps to overcome.
Transport genetics around the world, you have to be able to freeze the genes, if you like, or freeze the embryos and freeze the semen, which is much easier to transport than an animal. And that is still in its infancy at the moment.
In its infancy is a phrase you hear a lot when talking about Australia's camel milk industry. But producers like Chris and Megan Williams are making room for a growth spurt. They bought a new farm and are converting this old dairy into a milking depot fit for more than 200 camels.
We're very excited for what the future holds because there's so much unknown. Like, it can be daunting, but it's exciting. You know.
It's going to be a very long journey. We're only just at the start.
Yeah,
so.
we're literally just at the start.
I think if people are coming, looking at it and going, doing the rah-rah and going, oh, we're going to make all this money, then don't bother. You know, there's nothing quick about a camel. It takes time.
As for Lauren Brisbane, while she warns it is a risky industry to invest in, she also believes that patience and a passion for these surprisingly gentle and often cheeky giants will pay off.
You want my hat? Do you want my hat? We have a real opportunity to develop this industry and be able to supply milk around the world if we all work together.